Back to something that we were discussing before. We were discussing about how important it is to eat kazait when you're washing hands for the tetadayim. We said less than this, there's no obligation to wash hands, but if you eat kazait, then there's no bracha. But if you eat kibetza, that's where you make a bracha on it tetadayim. So you got to pay attention to how much bread you're eating. We said those on Shabbat who do not eat kibetza, did not fulfill mitzvah of Sudat Shabbat. Number two, their blessing in vain of Al Nitel Yadayim is a blessing in vain. And now, I want to read to you in Siman Kuf Ayin Zayin, Shulchan Aruch says that Dvarim Abayim Mituch Seudah, somebody who's eating other foods in a bread meal. Im and Dvarim Bayim Machmat Seudah, if there's something they usually eat in a meal, which means things they usually eat the bread with, so then, like kagon, basar, dagim, fish, meat, eggs, vegetables, cheese, soup, salted fish, all these salted things. So afilu ochlam belo pan, even if you eat them without bread, you don't eat every bite with bread, still, those things are exempt from bracha rishona. You don't have to do bracha rishona, and you don't have to bracha achorna. So let's say you have a fish or a meat, you don't say shakol on the fish, even if you eat the fish by itself, because you already washed for bread, and the bread covers the fish, and you don't have to say bracha achorna, because the Birkat Hamazon is going to cover the fish. However, when does this apply? Halacha says, Sif Het, Aochel pachot mekazait pat. Somebody eats less than a kazait of bread. Uba lechol shar minei tafshil. He eats other foods, right, without bread. Tzarich levarech alehem. He has to say bracha on those foods, lifnei v'leachreim, before them and after them. So you got to say, let's say a guy goes to a restaurant, right? So he goes to wash Nitlat Yadayim, and all he eats, the only bread he eats, is a little piece of bread that they gave him by the washing station in the little container. So this is definitely not kazait, and this is the only bread he ate. And he says, "Listen, you know why I washed and ate this bread? That way I don't have to make brachot. I don't have to check. I'm confused, not confused. Is this mezonot? This is the adama, ha'etz, whatever it is. Better safe than sorry. I washed. I made hamosi, and now the bread will cover all the food during the meal." Says Shulchan Aruch. Says Halacha Bara, nope, that's not true. If you didn't eat kazait, so you have to make bracha on every food that you eat. Bracha rishona and bracha achorna. So if you're going to eat a fish, shakol, and borei nefashot afterwards. Comes out that a person who didn't eat kazait has another problem now. He is eating all these foods without bracha. He's eating without bracha. He thinks he's covered, and he's not covered. So therefore, on Shabbat, it's very important at least they eat kazait, because if they don't eat kazait, they're eating the whole meal without bracha. Every fish, every chicken, every meat, every vegetable, every bach, everything he's eating without bracha every single time. It's a very big sin. So therefore, it's very important to remind everybody, preferably kibetza on Shabbat, but at least kazait. Okay. We were talking about last time where he didn't have a vessel. He wants to do Nitlat Yadayim for bread, but he didn't have a vessel. What does he do? So says the Shulchan Aruch, אם הכניס ידיו בתוך כלי של מים, סכסך ידיו בהם, אם הכלי מחובר לקרקע, לא עלתה לו נטילה. If you have a vessel that's attached to the ground, so it's not really a vessel, right? You have some basin that's attached to the ground, and it has full of water, and you dip your hands inside of there. If it's not a mikveh, it doesn't count for Nitlat Yadayim. But if it's not attached to the ground, machloket. Some say it works for Nitlat Yadayim, some say it doesn't. If you dip your hands inside, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And therefore, you should only rely on this in a time of need, when you don't have anything else. If you have, let's say, a sink full of water, it's attached to the ground, it's pasul. But if it's not attached to the ground, it's a big bucket. You know, it's funny how, till this day, they don't have washing stations in restaurants. All these big restaurants over here. You go to them, there's no washing station. You get up to wash, what do? Big bucket of water, like the painter's bucket, huge bucket of water. And then they put a kli, and they have like a dishes container to pick up the dishes, the busboy, and you wash on top of that. So what happens? First of all, they should have built already, do it like a proper person. And second of all, what if a person doesn't have the vessel? They forgot to put out the vessel. So he wants to dip his hand inside the bucket. Does it count? If he has no vessel to pour from, and he dips in there, so technically he has what to rely on if he has nothing else. Because it's not attached to the ground.
It's going to be already not good for the rest of the people.
Right, that's a problem also. But for himself, let's say he's the only guy, so for the technically he has what to rely on to do it, shata dahak. Okay, let's talk about, let's say you don't have a vessel, you have a sink, only a sink. What do? So we have to do safe tet. Let's say you have a barrel that has water, and you want to pour from the barrel onto your hands. It has a big barrel with water, and it has a hole at the bottom. You can open the spout, and water will come out. So that's like a faucet that we have today, similar. It's not a barrel, but idea is the same. Water is coming out from a small hole, and it's a container. So the question is, does it count for the daim when I open the spout? Says Shulchan Aruch, a guy had a barrel, he put it on his knees, and he's moving it with his knees to pour over his hands. If the barrel was on the floor, was leaning on the floor, and anyways the angle would have made the water come out, so it's not considered you poured it, right? You have to make it that the knees was what moves the barrel to make the water come out, so it's called koach of the gavra, of the person pouring out the water, right? But if the water would have came out anyways once you open the thing, so it's not considered that you caused the water to come out, so then it doesn't count. Lo alta lo netila. Mimaita barza. Right. But if you had a spout, benekev, vesira kibel mayim yadav, if you have a spout where you can close and open. Before we were talking about a barrel just had a hole, and once water gets in and it's tilted on the ground, it will spill the water out, and you put your hands in there, it doesn't count. But if it has a spout, every time you open the spout, water will come out. And you close the spout, water will not come out. When you open it, you cause the water to come out. Over there, if you open and close the spout, chashiv shapir koch gavra. It's considered your action, considered you poured the water, and tzarich lachzira la'asira b'kol shvicha v'shvicha. You gotta open and close each time you pour in your hands. So you want to do 3-3. You gotta go open, close, open, close, open, close, and then open, close, open, close, open, close, like this. Consider it nitlat from the barrel. But this is by a barrel. What do we have today? Our faucets. Our faucets are not a barrel. It's pipes and pressure coming out from the pipes, and then not necessarily water sitting on top of something and you opening, gravity coming out. It's pressure. For a system with pressure that shoots the water out, is that considered koch gavra or not? Excuse me. Halacha brewer says, back in the day they used to have water on top of the house. They used to have big containers on top of the house, and gravity would help water down the pipes, and that's how you would get water in the sink. But today, he says that when we have today, not without this on top of the house, ברז מחובר לצינור, מחובר לחבית מים נמצאת על הגג, אבל כשהמים באים דרך צינור ואין צינור מחוברים לחבית על הגג, אין להקל בזה כלל. Says הלכה ברורה, when you don't have the system of gravity causing the water to come down and you opening and closing it is like the barrel case. Today our faucets don't have a barrel it's attached to. It's attached to a system with pipes and the main line and pressure and all that stuff. So then you cannot rely on this whatsoever. So comes out, a sink, says halacha barah, even if you open and close each time, a sink will not help you for nitla daim for bread. For morning nitla, there's an argument if it takes ruach ra or not. Better to do without bracha for the morning if you don't have kli. But for nitla daim for bread, does not count whatsoever, says halacha barah, when you open and close the faucet each time in your hand. So what do you do? In that case, you're going to have to eat without touching the bread. What do you do whenever you need to eat bread and there's no water? There's no way to do nitla daim. So you make sure you cover, we're going to learn it later, you cover the bread. Don't touch the bread with your hand, bare hands. Have some towel, aluminum, something covering the bread. And you make hamotzi like that. And you don't wash. In this case, because obviously if you have a choice, go get water. We're going to learn there's an obligation to travel a little bit to go get water. Forwards and backwards a little bit. But let's say mamash, there's no water anywhere, or you don't have a vessel. Even if you go around, you won't find a vessel. You're going to eat without washing the hands, and you're going to make sure not to touch the bread. Okay, good. Yudalev. Everyone's kosher for doing it let yadayim for you, even a cheresh, a deaf person or a mute, a deaf person, he cannot hear. Used to be back in the day, a deaf person was very mentally limited. He wasn't able to learn so much. He was like, could be 30 years old. He had the understanding of a 7-year-old, 10-year-old, not so much. And what? If he pours netilat yadayim for you, even though he's not fully bar da'at, it's okay. It's kasher. Shote, let's say guy shote. Yeah. We meet people like this, they have, genetic disorder, or they have, some, in life, they got traumatized and they have some sickness in their soul. So let's say shote, he was normal for a second, he knows what it means netilat yadayim, and he pours netilat yadayim for you. He goes, come, I do it for you. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Kasher. Katan, child. Let's say the child under bar mitzvah. He wants to honor the father. I want to do netilat yadayim for you. In Pesach, I remember my mother-in-law, she said, we don't get up for netilat yadayim. We bring netilat yadayim here. We sit at the table, they bring the bowl, they bring netilat yadayim, and they pour for everybody netilat yadayim. So a child is doing it, a cheresh is doing it, a shoteh is doing it, a goy is doing it, nida is doing it. All these cases, mutar, it's kasher. The Ramah says, but the Ramah says someone who's under 6, he's not even chinuch. Some say he's like a monkey. Halacha by a monkey is, a monkey, if you train a monkey, you bet. Shulchan Aruch says they used to have monkeys. Imakov noten maim leyadayim, yesh poslim, yesh machzirim. Near in divrei machloket by a monkey, if he's able to pour water in your hands, does it count for netilat yadayim? Since he has no connection to mitzvot, and he's not a human, so some say that it's pasul, some say it's kasher. What?
Why does it matter if you understand? It's just pouring the water. You have a vessel, you have a cup.
Right. So you have to understand that at the end of the day, number one, you could ask the same question by Choresh Shoteh Katan, right? And Goy.
Exactly.
Why are they kasher? They have no connection to this mitzvah. Meaning, a lady, fine. Katan is not. Katan is a child. He's not obligated mitzvot yet. Or a Goy, he's not going to obligate in netilat yadayim. So how can he fulfill the mitzvah? Yeah.
The argument you could make is that by these people, they still kind of have some type of sense of tuman tahara.
Right.
By the monkey, he's tameh.
Right.
So you have the thing that the person who's pouring has to be tahor.
Right. So you're saying they have the ability to become tahor.
Tahor, but the monkey is already tameh.
Right. Okay. So since they have a potential to be connected to the mitzvah, connected to tahara, so therefore they're able to have connection to the mitzvah and it counts. But the monkey, which is not connected to the mitzvah, not connected to tahara at all, right? You don't put a monkey in a mikvah. You don't put a monkey in with the sprinkle him with efer para aduma. So all those situations, the poskim argue that he shouldn't have a connection to the mitzvah netilat yadayim. Shulchan Aruch says like who? Like the opinion says it's kasher. At the end of the day, he poured the water in your hands, and then you had a vessel. That's it. So the mitzvah is done. You would think that the person who's pouring for you, it's like the efer para aduma, the one who sprinkles you, he has to be a kosher person. The guy who's sprinkling, he cannot be tameh.
The bucket even on the roof.
Right. So you would think maybe the person sprinkling the para aduma water on you, he has to be pure. He cannot be impure. He's going to ruin it for you. But maybe netilat yadayim the same way. No, even a monkey, he pours the water over you. At the end of the day, your hands are washed, and it's all good. The Ramah says by us, a child under 6, some say is like a monkey because he doesn't have any understanding, and therefore it should be pasul like a monkey. But Shulchan Aruch, even a monkey, it'll be kasher technically. Hard? Yeah. So it comes out. Let's say you have a butler.
Basically, you can ask someone to pour water for people.
No, you could. And then you could. Let's say you have a butler. Yeah. Butler stands in the kitchen. All the guests come to the kitchen, and he fills up. He says, stick your hands out. He does 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Counts.
If he's not pure himself.
What?
If he's not pure himself.
Oh, good. By a Jew, we're going to see that to do netilat yadayim for somebody else, you have to do netilat yadayim yourself. We're going to learn that later on.
But you do work after something. You do some action after you wash yourself.
Right.
After you become clean, you do work. You have to connect to the bread.
Oh, good. So the case is that the butler did netilat yadayim in the morning, and his hands are pure, but he's not going to eat bread. He's not going to eat bread. He's just going to serve, and he and he pours for all the guests.
But if you don't know, it's better to get up yourself.
Right. It's good always. We said we'll end with this. We said it's always good. Balabai wash last. Why Balabai wash last? That way he shouldn't wait and go no. You know, he should tell everybody go wash. He'll wait till everybody watches. He helps wash tell everybody here's a cup, here's a towel. He can take care of everybody, and then he'll be last to wash. The floor won't be wet, and they'll have the least amount of hefsek possible. Baruch Amen.